Everybody, welcome to another episode of Small Business Talk with Jerry. I'm Jerry. I've got Craig Holschlag and Jeff Fasbender here today. I think this is our 50th episode.
Is that right? 50?
I believe this is number 50. So, and guest of honor, Jeff Fasbender, the 50th podcast for Small Business Talk with Jerry. Someday our 7 listeners will look back on this and think this is awesome. So I appreciate you guys.
I think we're supposed to get a gift of some sort at 50 for the 50th, but we didn't get one. So
yeah. But the intentions were there.
Yeah.
So
we thought about it. We thought about it just now.
Just now. Yeah, that was a great suggestion, Craig. Anyway, we'll introduce the guys. Craig?
All right. Hello, everybody. Back again for the 50th. I was just here not too long ago, so good to be back.
And Jeff.
Thanks for having me. I'm Jeff Fasbender of TrueNorth Risk Solutions. I'm an independent insurance brokerage. I primarily specialize in personal lines, commercial lines, insurance for businesses and individuals. I've been in the insurance business now for about 15 years. I was with a large captive company, insurance company, for about 13, and on my own now for the last little bit. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming out.
First of the year, right? That's when you switched?
Yeah, about the first of the year.
Yeah. Good.
So now I have a question, just for those of us who are not insurance savvy. What does captive mean? What do you mean by a captive company?
That's a good question. So you think about your big companies out there that they sell only their products, their named products. So being captive, you're limited to offering the products that company offers. When you're an independent insurance broker, the big benefit you have is you can work with any company you like, and it's kind of trying to find the right fit for every risk.
Okay.
That's kind of the fun.
Because one company is good with one situation, but not so great on another, and you just try to get the pieces where they fit. Exactly. Square peg in a round hole.
Yeah,
away from that.
Every company's got their ideal customer, and whether it be a commercial customer or a personal lines customer. Some companies have a preference for certain risk, and other companies don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Sure.
So
sure.
Yeah.
When for the big captive companies. So as an independent, was that how you're classified?
Yeah, an independent broker.
Okay. You can never, they don't offer like their product on a secondary market, do they? Or I mean, like you can't go to whatever, I don't know what, like to whatever, one of the big ones, right? Y'all know who they are, and say, listen, I can't, but I know.
Yeah, a big insurance company is lawyers, so we're not going to name any names today.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, well,
right. So can you go to their, because you've been in the industry a long time, so you say, listen, you know what, I know this company actually has a really good product for this. Can you still sell that?
In some cases, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. So
like the big captive companies, you can sell their products even as a broker sometimes?
In some cases, that's the case. Other cases, the larger captive companies will actually spin off a separate product line.
And that was my initial thought, was like, do they have something that they know is good? It's like, hey, we want to. I mean, they're a company to make money, so
exactly.
They want to get it out there and say we'll let independent guys and gals to sell this product.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, some companies that they want to sell as much product as they can, and they don't want to limit the folks that are selling their product.
Sure.
So sometimes they'll spin off a separate company. However, it's backed by the larger captive companies, and other times they'll spin off.
So is it like a different named company then? I mean,
sometimes that's the case.
So it's like going to Costco and you can buy Oscar Mayer wieners, you can buy Kirkland, which was made by Oscar Mayer. Okay.
Yeah, the name on the paper might be different.
Sure.
The policy might be different, but
backed by the same
folks.
Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, again, now I'm not a lawyer. I'm about as far from that as it gets. But doesn't that who's backing an insurance company? Doesn't that have to be kind of transparent? Doesn't it have to be?
It is. So, inside the larger companies, they'll have maybe several other companies. And inside those companies, they'll have different buckets of risk pools.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It just depends on the company how it's set up.
So I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but you went from being captive to an independent broker. To me, that seems like a pretty obvious choice, but what was the real allure to that for you?
That's a great question. The captive agents definitely have some benefits.
Sure.
They get a large brand to work with. Everybody sees the commercials online, the sporting events. So there's a lot of brand
Stadiums.
recognition there.
Stadiums,
Of course. So there's all of that benefit of having that brand.
And just so you know, that stadium does not come cheap, does it? They don't get to put their name up there for free.
The golf tournaments, all of these things. Of course, that all costs money. Some people have a mascot. We won't name them all, but there's lizards and there's certain individuals out there
Listen,
that have nicknames.
I don't think I'll get in trouble if I do iPod, but I like the Mayhem guy. Okay, I mean the guy's funny. Let's be honest, right? Whoever came up with that marketing plan, well done, because that guy is funny. So I didn't say the name.
So that makes you giggle too. I mean, a little bit. There's.
Well, I think they figured it out. It's like, hey, insurance is kind of a benign thing, but if we can add some humor to it, that might resonate with people, and I think it does.
Yeah.
So there's the benefit of all of that marketing and that brand recognition for sure.
Well, to be fair, we're going to label this as Jeff Fasbender, not the insurance guy. So we want people looking at it going, insurance?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm trying to differentiate myself from
right. Wait, but to be fair, the people that do know you, which is a lot of people. I mean, you've got a wide circle. They're going to want to watch this because you do a lot of cool stuff. I mean, outside of insurance, outside of work, you've got a history in Bitcoin mining, if I remember right. And,
I've dabbled.
Yep, and now
you dabbled.
Dabbled.
I don't know a lot, but I know you've done more than dabbled.
You visit my office.
Yeah, I saw the wall of computers.
That's an interesting story. I'm kind of a nerd at heart, so I know how to build computers and things like that. And I kind of built a mining rig just on a whim. At the time, parts were cheap and the market was low, and I was having some fun with it. Pretty soon, I was making a few bucks, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And pretty soon, I was making a few more bucks. That was really cool. And I was getting free power. That's the big thing, is power and space.
Right.
And do you still do them?
I don't. No, it's just not as it's not. It gets exponentially more expensive and more difficult every day to mine cryptocurrencies, and unless you've got a substantial amount of power available and space and capital, it's really difficult.
It was cool when Bitcoin was 34 cents, not $72,000 or whatever it is.
78 today,
78,
down to back up to,
and when Bitcoin first started, people were mining it with their PCs.
That's crazy.
And now the amount of computing power is exponentially, infinitely more powerful than a personal PC. And even
because you bring them all together. And I know, like at your office, when I saw it, you and I spoke a little bit about it when I was there. I mean, I don't know, would you have 12, 15 things kind of all strung together?
Yeah, I think at the peak I had 10 there. I had 2 or 3 at home. I had as many as I could get away with the noise and the heat. And my power capacity, I had a 50 amp, 208 volt circuit, and I was running 49.99 amps on a 50 amp circuit, and not running the furnace at all in the office because it was so hot. We were running the air conditioner year round.
That's crazy.
And fortunately, I wasn't paying for utilities or for any of that. So it cost me.
Why is Fasbender's suite taking so much power?
You can see it from FLIR camera 1,000 feet above the office. No, it's it was one of those things that worked out good at the time. And at the peak, I was probably mining $1,000 a day in Ethereum.
Wow, that's crazy.
Down payment on a house, and so it was. I got in at the right time and rode the wave until I couldn't anymore. And I've got a good story to tell.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, I mean, let's not overshadow the whole Operation Barbecue. That's
I don't know what this.
Yeah, to say, tell Craig doesn't know. I mean, I thought I knew what it was until about 15 minutes ago. Then I find out it's this whole nationwide thing. But yeah, Jeff, it's your story to tell.
I appreciate you bringing that up. It's a kind of a passion project that's near and dear. It's Operation Barbecue Relief was it's a nonprofit. It was founded in 2000.
Does it deal with food?
It does.
Fantastic.
Specifically barbecue.
Okay. Yeah.
It was
Marty,
fun.
then.
I tried to start with that, but I felt like we should talk insurance a little bit.
Yeah.
It's much more fun
Insurance
topic.
is cool. Good job. Let's talk about food.
It's like,
It's definitely a much more interesting topic. But yeah, Operation Barbecue Relief was founded in 2011 by Stan Hayes, who at the time was also a employee of a very large captive insurance company. And a couple of these guys and gals, they were competition barbecue cooks down in Kansas City area. And about that time, there was a tornado that occurred in Joplin, Missouri.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
it
big
was
one.
yeah,
4,
really
right?
bad.
Yeah, 4, I think.
It might have been even 5.
Maybe 5. Yeah.
But a lot of damage, a lot of people displaced, a lot of people that were in a really bad way. So these competition barbecue cooks were just wrapping up a competition in the area. I don't know exactly where it was, but they decided, hey, we're going to go see if we can help. So they loaded up their rigs, went to a Walmart parking lot, started cooking barbecue, and didn't leave until everybody was fed.
Wow.
And that's how Operation Barbecue.
that's how it started.
2011.
Yeah, in all honesty, up until 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, I thought it was something you had put together. It was just a local thing. So this is cool. I'm learning at the same time. This is cool.
Yeah, it's really taken off and grown. Our presence, or Operation Barbecue Relief's presence, is definitely more visible down south. You know, the primary mission of Operation Barbecue Relief is to provide hot meals in times of natural disaster.
So it's always focused on natural disasters.
So it's kind of like the Red Cross with wet wipes. Is what I'm picturing.
Yeah, and probably more efficient.
Yeah.
So it's a good point. I mean, Operation Barbecue Relief provides meals to the Red Cross, so we use them as a delivery or a method to distribute for us.
Sure.
So when we're stood up I'll give you an example of 2 years ago. I was in Florida, down by Tampa, in Port Charlotte area. A major hurricane hit there. It was Hurricane Ian, I believe.
Okay.
Lots of people, lots of damage, lots of people displaced, no power. We were doing 100,000 meals a day there.
100,000.
Yeah, at the peak.
So how many? I mean, you must drive down, tow your barbecue rig.
We don't. So
no.
Operation Barbecue Relief, they've got flatbeds, lowboy semi-trailers with massive commercial smokers on them. One time.
Were you? Sorry to interrupt. So were you a barbecue guy? Like, were you cooking at your house, and you got involved in this?
I started in competition barbecue back in 2010. So if you guys recall,
where the hell was this at in your office? I got nothing. I got no barbecue or Bitcoin when I came to your office.
But yeah, so I started that. So back then there was a competition in Rochester called Mid City Barbecue. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember, yeah.
But I cooked in the inaugural first year, and then the second year I came back. It was a benefit for the Rochester Police Athletic League at the time. And then it ran for 5 years. Last 3 years, yep. I was on the other side. I was on the volunteer side of helping run the event. And then it just kind of petered out after that.
But my team competed. Well, I don't know if you'd call it competed. We were there, but the last year of it, Caleb, Caleb and Josh.
Yep,
so I know Josh. Yeah, both those guys. So that was, it was.
And that's where I met a lot of Russian police officers.
Mm-hmm. My favorite. I bought a T-shirt. One of the first event T-shirt. It wasn't an event T-shirt, but you'll know who these guys are. It's a group of cops that are their barbecue team, and the name of their team is Felonious Barbecue. The shirt. I mean, I was like, I said, you guys got to sell me a shirt. He's like, you're like the fifth person who's asked for it. Well, then sell me a shirt. He goes, what size are you? They dug through, and his wife's like, I think we've got a couple extra. And I bought a shirt. I made him sell me a shirt. I was like, it was so awesome. But yeah, Felonious Barbecue. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, so every year the police, Rochester Police Department, they would stand up a team to compete in the event as kind of they were a lot of fun.
They were. That was a fun tent. Yeah. It was.
How does Operation Barbecue get funding?
Yeah, it's all by donations. So there are some large sponsors.
But hey, I'm Craig. I want to donate to.
Absolutely.
You can do it. Okay.
That's a good question.
Give us a quick plug. How do we give money to?
www.obr.org is our website.
OBR.
Or you can spell it out too. Operation BBQRelief.org.
Okay.
So there's links in there to donate directly. You can donate to anyone who volunteers, including myself. and you can dictate where you want your donation to go to. So if you want to go to disaster relief, we'll do that. If you wanted to go to, and I want to kind of circle back to one of your questions, is do we just do disaster relief? The answer is no. We have other projects too. So during the blue sky times, when we're not dealing with natural disasters, we have the Always Serving project. So we serve to primarily first responders, veterans. So I'm doing a meal for the Orinoco Fire Department here in May.
Okay.
So
I was just talking to Doug Gillard about that this afternoon. He was.
Yep, Doug's from Orinoco. Yep. So we're going to do about 100 people there. So firefighters and their families come out for a meal, and myself and volunteers put that on for them, just kind of a special night to get back to the community.
How does a community get like a local? Because I know like in Stewartville here, right?
Yep.
I know a lot of the guys in the fire department here. Jeff Olson, Van Swisher till he moved away, Jared Jones, all those guys. I mean, how do they get? If you wanted to do that for a locality, how would they? Did they just ask?
Just ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simple. That simple, huh?
Yeah, and my role in Operation Mercury Relief is the area coordinator for the state of Minnesota. So it's my job to help create those relationships, maintain those relationships, look for any need, and provide those meals or help facilitate those meals in times of need and for community goodwill.
So you say like the Operation Barbecue has these low boys and these big commercial units. That's around the Kansas City area. Is that where they're housed, or are they all over?
They're all over.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, primarily they're staged in the areas that we serve most. So we've got some in Florida, some in Kansas City, some down in Oklahoma. We've got some equipment as far north as the Chicago area.
Sure.
For the smaller events, we have our own equipment. And
we I mean, right now we had tornadoes here just a week ago, and right halfway between my house and your house.
Yeah, I can see the top of it, and you had a little bit of damage.
Yeah, I mean, we had about $20,000 worth of damage here at our house.
Right.
Just wind though. We didn't get tornado, we didn't get blown over or anything, but there's a lot worse. I mean, we weren't displaced at all.
Yeah, Marion got hit.
Yeah, and there's 2 or 3 houses just north of Fairway that are mostly gone. So a small event like this, you just do that yourself?
It would depend. So I'll give you an example. I was contacted by I reached out to Olmsted County EOC on Friday. This occurred last Friday.
Yep.
And first of all, we don't want to be anywhere we're not wanted.
Sure.
We want to be invited to provide our services. The last thing we want to do is get in the way or take away from the local response, the restaurants or whatever. We don't want to hurt the economy or hurt the local response.
So that's a great plan.
So my job is to reach out to whomever is running the event or the emergency response, and in this case it was Olmsted County. And I received a call actually today from one of the lieutenants at Olmsted County, and he said that there's been an effort by a local church, but they're getting tired, and they've been going for a week. And we've got some volunteers here. We've got some other nonprofits helping out. We've got some residents still displaced. We might want you to come in and do something for us. So we're going to explore that option here tomorrow.
Okay.
We may or may not do something. I think the need is somewhere between 100 and 200 meals a day. For something like that, we would probably, and depending on how long it's going to be, if it's going to be a few days or 5 days, we would move some assets up from Chicago area.
Okay.
Which we could stand something up in 24 hours. So
sure.
And by assets, I mean we've got small barbecue trailers. They've got smokers on them. They've got all the equipment we need.
So kind of like a
food truck. On my deck, will that help you?
Probably not. Although we've done it before.
And I'm not true. I cheat, right? You guys do all the work.
I've cooked on everything from a commercial smoker the size of your house to pellet grills you use under deck. I've cooked on everything, and at the end of the day, you just feed.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, and having that warm meal instead of a cold sandwich or a hot dog.
Yeah.
Sometimes that makes a big difference.
So. That's awesome. I've never even heard of it, but that's where you can't go wrong with helping after a disaster, to your point, or just giving back to the volunteer departments around I guess the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, it's awesome. I did the competition circuit for a while, which is great. It's a lot of fun. I still do it occasionally, but
you've probably won.
I've never actually won.
Oh, okay.
I've never gotten second.
Okay, that's still Still, we
Yeah.
watched second place. We've seen people get second place.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, it's
The first is better, but
Yeah, first is definitely. You're still going home in the hole.
that's true. Yeah. Yeah. It's not a real prosperous
It's
like racing.
endeavor, is it?
You know, nobody gets rich.
Yeah.
Not even the people winning.
What's like your favorite thing to like? Do you have a specialty, like was it pork butt or brisket, or does it matter?
Bit of a hot take, I think.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's going to say brisket. I'm going to go turkey.
Oh,
Really?
That is
Texas style turkey breast. That's
What's that? What's Texas style?
Yeah, just basic seasoning: salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic. Maybe do a brine on it. Texas style usually is a boneless, skinless turkey breast.
I've never had.
Oh, it's good.
I mean, I have from like I think I've had like when you get it in a package and it says smoked turkey on it. I don't think that's the same.
Right? No, it's a little different than that.
Wow, that sounds okay.
We've done that for Thanksgiving before. We'll put it in a big tub with a brine.
Yep.
Let it sit for about 3 days in the fridge. We have the commercial fridge for the daycare, so we empty out the bottom shelves and then pull the shelves out so you can put it's like a big Rubbermaid tote, and we'll sit there and we'll let it brine for like 4 days after it thaws. Then we'll put it in the smoker, but we do it whole, and it's but yeah, you got to peel back the skin because the skin doesn't let the smoke through.
Yeah.
It's
I like pork butt.
pork butt's tough to beat. I love doing the wings.
Hundreds of pounds of pork. So
Yeah.
Not that I dislike it. It's one of those things that probably.
But you've eaten enough of it where it's got you.
Yeah, when we're on deployment, we're doing pallets of cases.
Yeah.
Pallets of cases. And the interesting thing is that when we're on deployment, we get fed, right? We don't need any barbecue.
Yeah, I bet.
Usually they bring in food trucks for all the volunteers. That's the last thing they want to eat is barbecue. It's really interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, because but I don't eat it all the time. I guess.
So do you like when you get deployed to something? Do you see like the local grocery stores? Do they try to help you guys provide, or are you guys raising all the money and buying it from the grocery stores, or bringing it in from a Cisco or a supplier?
Yeah, that's a good question. The answer is it depends. Some of our big sponsors are Hy-Vee, Prairie Fresh, which is also Seaboard, I think, is their parent company.
Oh, right.
So, and Seaboard provides proteins of all kinds across the country. So they're a large distributor. So they're a large donor. Occasionally we'll get, as an example, when I was in Florida last, we got a whole reefer trailer of beef from the Iowa beef producers.
Oh, yeah.
And then Hy-Vee has a national disaster response team.
Oh.
So they'll trailer reefers and or send them all the way down to wherever we're at. Now Hy-Vee's not in the South; they're in the Midwest.
Right.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how far they reach.
Yeah, so they'll provide us, as an example, we'll use reefer trailers as storage. So they'll have one set up for frozen goods, one for refrigerated, whatever. And they have truck drivers dedicated to their disaster response.
Oh wow, didn't know that.
And they actually have a couple of I think they're ex-military folks that run the disaster response team. So they go all over the country. Hy-Vee does. Wow. So that's just one example. Rhino Propane, Blue Rhino, sure. And they have several subsidiaries. They're a big sponsor. They provide all the propane for us. Sunbelt Rentals.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we get preferential. So when we need to go out and basically build out a camp, they'll bring tents, generators, fuel, lights, whatever we need. Operation Barbecue Relief's got several bunkhouse trailers. We're completely self-sustained. We can produce, our own power. Basically, we set up a small city.
Sure. Wow. In 15 years, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, to get that kind of as you put it, those kind of assets in 15 years to be able to do that, like you said, in 24 hours. That's something. Because I'm sorry, in my head, like I kind of forget you're going into these. I'm thinking, oh, let's set up in a parking lot and we'll just run into Walmart, but it might not even be standing, or there's no power, or so. I never really thought like generators and tents and stuff to store stuff. That's wild.
And so generally speaking, for the hurricanes, they're going to stage assets of all kinds. Power trucks, National Guard. Verizon is one of them that a lot of times will end up being in the same area as us. Sure. And basically, they'll stage those crews just outside of where they think it's going to be bad. and they'll have a pre-plan or a destination of where they're going to set up most of these things. And as soon as basically law enforcement or local authorities clear it, they're rolling.
Yeah.
We've set up in a foot of water, no power, no potable water. So yeah, it just varies depending on location and the situation.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Well, I see, and it looks like Starlink is kind of getting in that game too, as far as trying to help. I mean,
yeah, we run Starlinks. Operation
Okay.
runs Starlinks. But a lot of times, like I said, we're camped up with the Verizon folks because they're there with their portable antennas. They're basically restoring cell service.
Sure.
With portable units, and then they have their command center that provides us like gigabit internet
Yeah.
if we don't have Starlink themselves.
Well,
Yeah. That way you can, Google the time and temperature.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Send text back to home.
Right.
Yeah, and
So-
you had answered or asked a question earlier about how we get there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a cool story too, because there's a nonprofit out there called AirLink.
yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah.
And
They
it's
do a lot of stuff like healthcare and I think veterans, right?
yeah, they do. They basically provide flights free of charge
Yeah.
for nonprofit organizations, veterans, people in need.
Wow.
So it's a nonprofit that collects, or that people can donate their unused travel points or airline miles or whatever, and they're able to redeem those for flights for these volunteers or
Mhm.
veterans or whoever it may be. So AirLink is a partner of Operation.
Okay.
Relief also. Yeah.
Wow. Sweet.
That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah,
so. What's the farthest you've gone from home to?
probably Florida.
Okay.
I've been to Florida twice.
Okay.
Been to Texas. I've been to Iowa, Tennessee,
Iowa.
North
Iowa
Carolina.
sucks.
Craig's from Iowa.
Oh,
So,
well, then you're allowed to say that. It's most expected.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, during the floods 2 years ago by Okoboji, we were there for a week, and that was pretty rough. But yeah,
Well, I mean, we'll go back, about 8 or 10 years ago, there's a ton of flooding. I mean, just 2-3 years right in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do we still? I mean, it kind of seems pointless to talk about insurance at this point, but I mean, we should talk about your TrueNorth, Risk Solutions, and your agency that you've are now come to own.
let's do that. Yeah, I mean, so I'm an independent broker. I was captive, like I said, for about 13 years. I'm just having fun with it right now.
Well, you know the industry. I mean, it's not like you're new to this.
I do, and I specialize in commercial insurance, business insurance. I like working with business owners. It's more challenging, generally speaking. So I like that aspect of it. I've got so many options for markets for these folks. And it's not like putting a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
My job is to go out there and find the best fit.
Is there anything you don't insure? Like anything like, I know like classic cars is probably a big one. I mean, I know that's kind of a niche market.
If you open a gun shop on top of a bar, Jeff wasn't a big fan. I did ask him though. I did.
Yeah.
I did ask him.
Yeah. Now I would look at that all day long, and I actually tell people I like the weird stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's fun to me. It's challenging. It's interesting.
The look in your face though when I told you, I was like, well,
Yeah.
I want to know if it's something you can insure my gun shop. We don't do a ton of commercial, but
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm not done. There's a downstairs.
Yeah. There's a bar.
And there's a bar in that downstairs, and it's open when we're open. And he's just like, the look on your face was like, why are you talking to me?
This is not ideal.
Ideal.
Yeah.
No, not ideal.
Well, you got to think about it, and from an underwriter standpoint, they're like, you're just stacking risk upon risk.
Yeah.
It's not an if, it's a when.
Yeah, like, so there's a bar. Okay, I got that. I can handle a bar.
Yeah.
But there's also a gun shop. Okay. And it's like down the street or next door.
Can handle a gun shop.
Same building.
Same building.
In fact, if I correct me if I'm wrong, there's probably a door connecting the two. Is there not?
There was. There was at the time. Yes, there was at the time.
So,
yes.
I mean, the 200 is challenging enough.
Yeah.
And then you stack those multiple, and then multiple owners.
Right.
So you're just stacking risks on risks, and it just gets really good. From an underwriter standpoint, it just kind of blows their mind. They're like, not for me. I'm gonna pass it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's and of course like where you're at now, that's where we ended up. We ended up with an independent broker, of course. And I mean, I have 11 denial letters, like official denial letters. I had a handful of like laughs where it didn't even get to a letter going, like yours going, no,
Not for
this is not going to work for me. I can't help you with this. But again, you were captive at the time. You didn't have the freedom you have now.
So that brings up a good point, though. In my job is to find a home for that, right?
Yeah.
And I have a lot better ability to do that now because my hands aren't as tied with having to go to a market again, trying to put that square peg around.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that anymore.
So what I just heard for everyone listening is, even though he turned me down years ago, if I still were in that situation, I should have come back to you.
I absolutely can find a solution to
I thought you were going to say, now would be a great time to open a gun shop over a bar because we've got an insurance option for you.
That's the other thing I heard. Yes.
It's not going to be cheap.
Well, the guy walking your door asking for insurance to insure a gun shop above a bar, they're not looking for cheap.
They're looking for an option.
Looking for options. Yeah. Looking for an option.
Right.
Yeah.
And
right. I need a solution.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. So there's in the insurance, we're gonna geek out a little bit on this.
Yeah.
You've got your standard markets, right? That's for your typical risks, things you see every day.
I have a house. I have a garage. I park a car in my garage. I sleep in my bedroom.
Exactly.
Can you insure my stuff?
Even on the commercial, I've got a restaurant. I've got a auto repair shop. I've got whatever it is.
Yep.
That's pretty easy to quantify from an insurance standpoint. Now, when it's more difficult to quantify the risk, something like a gun shop over a bar. Those standard markets, they just don't have a way to quantify the risk, so they can't rate it and underwrite it. So you're going to go to something called an excess and surplus carrier. Okay. And these are carriers that specialize in providing insurance for difficult to quantify risks. And they do that by digging deeper. So they're going to understand more about the risk.
Might get a visit.
Probably going to audit you on an annual basis. They're going to charge enough premium so they make sure that they try to make a few bucks.
Yep.
And or they're probably going to have other business in that same category. Sure. Gun shops as an example, bars as an example. So that's going to be an excess and surplus carrier. That's what they do. And I have experience, and I do that all the time. And I'll tell you about a risk. I'm not going to say who it is, but imagine on the Mississippi River, right? River that floods frequently.
Going to the market.
Yeah, it's a wonderful destination, great for recreation. But now you're running a business on this river. Your business, the only way to get to this business is by boat. You can't I suppose you could swim.
Sure, right.
But you can't get there by car or by foot. And it's not actually on land. It floats. Mm-hmm. So you're providing a service for people to come out to this floating business that you could fish on. You can understand or imagine underwriter looking at that going, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I do.
Is that okay to drive up here? Because I think I'm
Yeah. And that's
we've actually even mentioned the guy's name already in this podcast. So yeah.
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 You know who we're talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
That's the kind of thing I enjoy. And they prior to me, they were sitting on a premium that was well into the tens of thousands.
Yeah. So when you
were able to help, I'm sorry, Craig. Yeah. So you were able to help him with that.
I was able to get him the liability insurance they needed.
Yeah.
And for substantially lower premium.
Yeah. I can imagine. I didn't even think about that. I couldn't imagine trying to. Cause I when they first bought it, I did a bunch of shirts for him and things like that. And he and I've been friends for like you, just 20 years, 25, closer to 30 years actually. But anyway, they had a tough go too, with damage and whatever. And I didn't even think about that.
The property is uninsurable, but the liability portion is what they need to run their business.
Sure, right.
So the property itself is you can't even get a policy.
Okay. No, I bet not. I mean, and they've had their share of damage.
Yeah.
I mean, ice and all the flooding and
it's a river. I mean,
yeah, right.
Yeah, it does flood.
Yeah.
So when you were a captive agent, these things that you're talking about, what was the section that you go to that does these one-off things?
Excess and surplus.
Yes. Did you not have that availability as a captive, or was it just not as broad?
It's very limited.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and these captive companies, they have a very narrow scope for the kind of risks they wanted to place. especially on the commercial side. And they do that because it's a well-known risk. It's easy to underwrite.
Sure.
So it's lower risk for the companies to do that. Now, you get outside of these captive companies, you have a lot of other companies that, like I said, specialize. I'll give you another option or another example. One of the niche markets that I'm working in now is classic car restoration businesses. So it's not really a body shop. They do that, but it's also not really a auto repair shop either.
Right. Very niche market.
Very niche market. They're doing super high dollar.
And there's a lot of risk there because you're fabricating things. You're wiring things that didn't have wiring before. You're putting air conditioning cars that didn't have it. There's all kinds of liability there.
So that brings up an interesting point. So you're for that, you're insuring that business. Is it just as hard to get insurance on that car?
No, it would be easier. The process would be, I'll give you an example. So my dad's got like a Corvette, just an off the shelf stock Corvette. He wants to insure it for 20 grand, 25 grand, whatever it is. And he wants to insure it and agreed on value. So if he tolls the thing out, he's going to get 25 grand. Yep. A standard insurance policy through name your carrier here is going to give you actual cash value. So they're going to depreciate the value out of that car. So you might get 7 grand, 8 grand, whatever it might be, market value.
Sure.
Pretty simple. Some of the classic car insurance companies out there, that's pretty standard. Now, some of the cars that these guys are doing at these restoration shops, they're going to SEMA, they're going to Barrett Jackson. These are $500,000 cars.
Yeah, that was my point, because like if you take let's just say a 68 CUDA, let's say, and you build it from ground up, to your point, you've got to manufacture one-off parts that aren't available anymore. So does an insurance underwriter say, well, listen, I mean, I know this thing drives and looks pretty, but is it safe enough as it was in 1968? Probably safer, in all honesty. Right. But I mean, how do they adjust that risk? I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, you do a restoration on a car, could it be? I mean, if you have to run new wire, I mean, there's a lot of unknowns.
Fabrication is expensive.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns. That's what I was wondering. Like, for the niche car or for the classic car market.
The biggest risk for somebody doing that kind of stuff is going to be what we call completed operations or products. So essentially, they've completed this restoration on this car. Let's say they've done frame and chassis modification. They've lowered it. They put a Hellcat engine in it, so it's going to chopped it, whatever. They've done all these things to it, right? So it's not a off the line car anymore. It's now a custom fabricated vehicle.
Sure.
So down the road, let's say they had a bad weld, frame breaks, causes an accident. They're going to have the coverage that completed operations and products coverage.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
As a liability,
right? Because you look at a 2020 Corvette and it has a 4-star safety rating. You send it into a fabricator and you come out with some badass custom cool thing. What's the rating on that? How safe is that car? It might be better than a 5-star now. It might barely make it down the road. I mean, safety wise, like you said, you may have a frame that isn't going to hold. You chop this and thin that out so you can make room for bigger tires. And
you start topping things, and all of a sudden now you've got.
And you maybe have lost some strength, and then you go and take out the 190 horsepower motor and put in the 1,040 horse motor. It's like and you chop the frame some, and you've weakened it. I mean, right? That's well. And here's an example for myself. I had a 71 or 72 Stingray, and I was with. I mean, you're not affiliated with them, and this isn't. But I was with State Farm at the time, so one of the big companies. And our agent, I assume she was captive. I would assume that's what that her scenario was. And I went in to insure this, and she was like, she kind of she says, well, we're going to insure this. When she looks up, she goes, we're going to insure this as a 72 Chevrolet. And I'm like, that's pretty broad. She goes, and cheap. And she goes, you're going to love the rate, but you're not going to love it if something bad happens. Because the reason it's cheap is because we're gonna this is going to be insured as like a $2,000 car, when it's done. And I'm like, that's not good. And we ended up going with Haggard, at the time. But her recommendation, she was like, I love having you as a client, but this is not our thing. This isn't my area. And she said, I can insure it, but this won't be good. She goes, it's not going to be good for you.
And that's another example of the benefit of using a broker, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have access to those classic car companies. We're going to have access to those standard auto carriers that we talked about. Again, it goes back to putting the risk where it should be, or where it best fits.
And understanding the value
Exactly.
of what you're dealing with, as well as, I mean, it's, a 72 Stingray, not that parts aren't available, but you're not rolling to Napa and buying everything you need. I mean, again, 72 Stingray, sadly, when you peel the shell off, there are a lot of parts in that car that are just 72 Chevrolet. I mean, there's not wasn't a lot of cool custom stuff then.
Right.
Corvette now is a little different. You're not sharing calipers with a Caprice. Where some of the old stuff, and even back then, you had 4-piston calipers. Well, in 1972, that was space age technology.
Brakes are carbon fiber now.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy the difference and what you have to spend to do it. And then when you get something custom, you can't. When you have that custom rig, you can't just roll that into the Chevy dealer and go, yeah, put this back together.
When you have a car like that, so can what dictates if you can do a stated value or not? So if you take let's just say you go out and buy a 2026 Corvette C8, and then you take it to Liechtenstein. Is that the company that soups them all up?
No, Liechtenstein.
Lingenfelter, I think. Is that it?
Lingenfelter.
Is that right? Yeah, something
It's
like
like
that.
the aftermarket.
Yeah, right.
There's
There's several. Yeah.
They'll
Hennessy.
Hennessy's one. Yeah, they'll juice the motor and do all kinds of crazy stuff, and then the customer comes in and says, "Well, listen, I bought this car for I don't know what a new C8 is, probably 120,000."
Yeah, 120, 145.
ZR1's about 225.
Yeah, CR1's over 200. Yep.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now,
If you
but
get
now
one.
this.
If you get one, and you have to agree not to sell it for a certain amount of time, or they'll blackball you. Yep.
Not with that attitude.
He married up. Don't let him get you.
I can't fit in a damn thing.
I was just gonna say you're gonna have to go to the roof.
Right. So, but can you, if I came in and said, hey, I did all this work to it, now this car went from 125,000, I want to insure it for 250.
Yeah.
Can you do that, or is the customer? Can the customer say, listen, this is what I want?
Absolutely. Within reason, the value needs to be there.
Sure.
And again, it goes back to underwriting the risk. You're probably not going to put that in a standard carrier because again, you're going to get a policy for a stock C8.
Sure.
Yeah.
Something like that. You're going to go to a classic car carrier. You're probably going to have an appraisal of that vehicle or something from whomever did the work saying, yeah, it's legit. We did all this work.
Receipts.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we could take that under and say, hey, it's legitimately worth this kind of money. They're probably going to want some photos, maybe a video of the vehicle just to make sure it is what it is. You send that in with your application, it's no big deal.
Huh.
You're going to pay the premium for it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, of course.
That's if you got a 200,000.
Yeah.
But do you care what the premium is?
Yeah, but that's properly underwritten for the risk.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're getting that agreed on value or stated value. If that's something that happens, you're going to get that money back.
Right.
Well, I guess I should start saving for his
Yep.
ZR1 then, I guess.
Just tell Jody you need to up the allowance.
All right.
All right. Honey, if you're listening,
Honey?
Jerry says, I get a Corvette, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
1,100 horsepower, twin
Yeah.
turbo.
That would be fun. I have sat in one. I don't think I could ride in one for very long.
I was gonna say I can't imagine that would be very comfortable because there's not a lot of room.
guy in town here had one, and it was an older one. Like, it was probably a 2012, 15, something like that. I mean, it was built. I mean, it was fast as hell. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was a lot of fun. Huh?
Brian?
No, Don.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and that thing was a screamer.
Yeah.
Getting me folding my big ass in and out of that thing is not easy. So I'd love to have one, but I would never buy one because I would just not be comfortable. So
Maybe another hot take, but I think the Z06 sounds better.
It does. But
Plain Craig
man,
over the twin turbo.
I believe that. I haven't heard them side by side, but
it's cool.
It's tough to beat the. Huh?
Just sounds nasty.
Yeah, it's tough to beat the old V8 just with exhausted correctly. It's hard to beat.
And granted, this is a whole different level, but our Scat Pack, I love the sound of that 6.4, the 6.4 Hemi. It just, and they really open up the exhaust on those a bit, and I think they sound good. The supercharged 6.2s, they're cool in their own right, tons of power, but just that raw 6.4 sounds good.
Yeah.
I like it.
You get the blower whistle one.
Yeah,
That's the thing with the turbos, right? I mean that whine of a turbo
Yeah.
is pretty wild when you
Yeah.
when you get that thing spooled up.
Yeah, it sounds like a Honda.
So yeah, I can insure all
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That's cool.
and do it properly.
So I think we got sidetracked, but is there anything that you can't, or that you, or that you ran into? I guess you've had a long career that you. I mean, I know as a captain agent probably a lot, but now as an independent, that you can't.
There's
Insure?
markets I choose not to get into.
That's probably a better question.
Yeah, there we go.
So I don't do any life, and I don't do any health insurance.
Okay.
My wife, as you know, has another business that handles that. And I'm not an expert on that.
That was a conversation actually with Doug. He was in the shop, and I said that we were doing this podcast tonight, and he said, he goes, well, but he doesn't do insurance. I'm like, what do you mean he doesn't do insurance? Well, isn't it his wife's agency? And I was like, well, she has one, yes. Yeah. And he's like, but he, I'm like, they.
Right.
There's his and hers.
The captain was under your wife's name.
Technically, yes. I wore the pants when she wasn't around, but
yeah, right there.
As we all do.
She was the agent.
What color pants do you want me to wear?
Exactly. But she was the agent of record at the captain's agency, and I was a producer essentially. And she's decided that she's had enough of the property and casualty insurance world. She's
out of it.
Out of it, yeah. She was a property and casualty agent for 25 plus years.
Yeah.
And it's an industry like any other that you've got to be passionate about it. And
right.
If you kind of lose your passion, it's time to do something else. And she's very passionate about what she does now, and she prefers to stay in that lane. And I kind of wanted to stay where I was heading in the same direction I was going. So that's why I stayed in the P&C. But to get back to your question, I don't do typically habitational risks, condo associations. Not really my thing. It's a really what's the word, bumpy market. So it's up, it's down, it's sideways, it's on, it's off. So I don't do a lot of those. I don't do farms either.
Okay.
And mostly because I don't understand the business. I'm kind of, if I'm going to get into something I'm going to insure, I want to understand the risk and understand the business. Talk the talk.
Right.
Because
be the expert.
Be the expert. Because your clients are going to know that. They're going to know
you. I mean, yeah.
So it's just not in my wheelhouse. So I don't do farms, and then life and health. Other than that,
I'll need to take a look at everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and sometimes I'm not the right fit either.
Sure.
And that's fine.
Sure.
I will probably never have a brick and mortar. And for some people, that's a deal breaker. I understand that.
Sure.
So I'm probably not the right guy for you in that case.
Do you just work out of your home?
I do. Yeah, I'm mobile. So yeah, I'll go to where you are, or virtually, or your phone, email, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do a lot of meetings in people's homes or at their business or coffee shops, whatever works. But I feel like the market is for insurance agents and a lot of other service jobs and industries. Having a brick and mortar, I think, is not as important as it used to be.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm not going to take cash payments. It's just, I think the market has evolved a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. In that way. And it's not just insurance, like I said, it's a lot of different industries.
Right.
So, I mean, you look at real estate agents, a lot of them don't have offices anymore. A lot of their work is away from an office. And if they do need an office, they usually have a workplace or someplace to meet clients.
What do they call those? Like work
or even
community thing where they can just go and rent the space for.
Like a commons.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's similar to that.
Yeah. I have a client that I've done a little work for with one of my companies and apparel. And they want some things and they do advertising. And so I had lunch yesterday and they asked if I would do a bigger order for them than they had done in the past, but they want to do a split. So I'd take half in credit basically towards their advertising and then get paid for the other half. So we're debating our way through that. I was talking to the wife a little bit about it last night. She's like, well, and they have it's a radio station. So he's like, well, what if but these radio stations come and go. I mean, they sell all the time, and move around. She goes, what if they move? I was like, she says, what if they go out? I'm like, they've got multiple stations. They're not going out. And she goes, well, but they might sell. Sure. She goes, then what if they're not in the local market? What do we do with that? And I was like, when we do shirts for someone, we're in Stewartville. It's 6,000 people, 6,500, something like that, whatever it is, but it's small. If I do shirts for someone in Stewartville, we still do it all online. I don't come to your house. I send you, you email me, you text me, you call me, and we figure out what we're doing. Then I send you proofs. I don't print them on my computer, print them on my printer. I mean, I come over to your house and show you I email it to you or I text it to you or whatever. And that's if you're 3 blocks away.
Right.
My next door neighbor, I wouldn't walk the sheet over. I'd email it to him, And so it's like, so if they go to Tallahassee, let them advertise there for us. I mean, it was a revelation. Not that it was, not that I'm smart enough to think of that ahead of time. It's just we're talking through it. Because when she first said it, I was like, those radio stations are kind of like movie theaters. They change names and they move and they sell. But then also it's like, we'll just advertise wherever they are. I mean, because it doesn't really matter to me. Everything we do and a shirt, a hat, a set of shirts, hats, we can ship it all.
Right.
There's no. It doesn't have to be local business. I'm going to advertise here because we are here. But yeah, if all of a sudden they tell me they've got a smoking deal in Illinois, well, if we can get business out of it, I mean, I'm really not tied to, being here physically.
I think another example is, you're in the auto repair business. Back in the day, you'd probably carry a bunch of inventory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lots of inventory, right? You kind of want to have one of everything.
Yep.
Today, that's, I'm guessing, not the case.
No.
Because you've got parts warehouses. You can get anything pretty much same day.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so this is a terrible statement, but for years, we've called Rochester a whore's market for auto parts.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much competition.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at O'Reilly's has 3 or 4 stores in town. AutoZone has a couple stores. Napa has a couple stores.
Just open a new one.
Yeah, just open a new one.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, and then you have little guys like Johnston and Auto Value that have 1 store each, but these guys, they travel.
Yeah.
The only way you need any kind of inventory now, if you were in Harmony,
right,
probably need some inventory, because that's the stores are going to be nearby nobody's going to hotshot to you every 20. Today I had a gentleman walk in and he wanted, he's got an old Honda and takes just basic 5W30 conventional oil is what it calls for. He wants synthetic and he wants a name brand filter. And it's like, okay, I carry Prime Guard filters. We do between 10 and 22 oil changes a day on top of all the other work we do. We've been putting Prime Guard filters on for, 17 or 18 years.
He wants a Wix or something.
Right. He's like, I don't stock Wix. I don't stock, but I call that, that filter is whatever it is, $5, $6. I don't have to wait for an order. I just go online, I put his car in, find the Wix, click on it, done. Within about 15 to 25 minutes, it just walks to my door.
Right.
They literally drive over, a delivery driver will drop off a $5 filter and they don't, when I call and need a little, a keyway or I need a retainer for, body molding or something. You buy a pack of 5 of them, it's like, $3.
Do you buy from the same shop?
We buy from everybody, but you have, in our business, we call it first call. So first call this is who you go to. This is who I always try first. And then, but like you said, with insurance, I know there's like rotating electrical. That's alternators and starters. They are terrible. I don't care what brand you buy. It doesn't matter. When you want to talk about most industries, that 4% defect rate is acceptable. In alternators and starters, if we go 6 or 12 months off of the day we install, we're lucky if we can stay under 15%. And nothing, not our doing, just the parts fail.
Profitable.
I don't know. They must be nickels to produce because, but on the same token, we did a Honda Odyssey today. Starter for it, or the alternator for it was, my cost wholesale was $312 for an alternator.
And he charged $784,000. That's how he buys chargers.
$300 an hour for labor, probably.
Yeah.
118. Thank you very much. Thank
Time
you.
and materials.
Time and materials. Yeah. No. But the point is, the failure rate is so high. So then you look around going, okay, well, everyone will give you a lifetime warranty on the part. And it's just, but it's like brakes. Lifetime warranty on brakes, brake pads. They're made to wear out.
They're consumable.
Right. They're a consumable product. That's like giving you a warranty on an egg. I mean, but brakes wear out. But that's the gimmick, because one company started doing it, going, people don't keep their cars long enough. That's a trend. So as long as you do it to the original purchaser, it's not going to be an issue. And when you put brakes in once every 4 or 5 years, even if you do keep the car, if you're not a loyal customer of someone, do you remember where you had it done?
There's actually lifetime warranty on brakes.
A lot of times. They'll tell you, some companies will say excludes wear. Most don't. Most it's especially like in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was very gimmicky. They'd throw warranties like that on brake pads. And it's like,
Mine's
it's a
a Tommy
consumable.
boy.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the
going
thing.
to repeat it how
Yeah,
he
right,
described
right,
it.
how he described it. But
I was hoping. I was waiting. But
but that's the thing. That was a big thing. And if once one company does it, then it's like the prorating on batteries. What a scam that was for years. You'd buy a battery. I don't care if it's talk to big names, Die Hard, Interstate. Everybody was the same. Once one company did it, you'd get a 7-year warranty. Well, the first 12 or 18 months, free replacement if it goes bad, which very seldom do you see that. But then all of a sudden you'd get to, you're at 3.5 years. So you buy it. So if you buy a battery from me for $100, we're dating ourselves a bit at $100, but
yeah.
let's say you buy a battery for $100, 7-year warranty, prorated. You've had it for 3.5 years. What should that battery cost you?
50.
Right? Simple math, right?
50%.
50%, right?
Hey, look at me with math.
You're wrong.
Shit.
It's actually 20%.
Because what they would do is MSRP, right? We've all heard manufacturer's suggested retail price. MSRP of that battery is going to be like $219.
Okay.
I can't sell it for $219 because nobody else sells it for $219. I'm selling it for $100 to be competitive. When you come back to me, I warranty that. When I go back to Interstate or Die Hard, they'll tell me, okay, well, yeah, 50% of MSRP is $109.95. So you pay me $100 for a battery with a 7-year warranty, 3.5 years in, I come back and I'm like, yeah, $109.95. So I'm better off just selling a new battery for $100. Right. So when you got anywhere near that halfway point, MSRP was almost always a little more than double what we could actually sell it for. So when you got anywhere near that halfway point, the replacement warranty was more than what we were selling them for retail.
I'm guessing they had a little bit of data on the failure rate at about 3.5, 4 years in their MSRP and how that correlated with that failure rate.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The world runs on data.
Interesting.
Yeah. But that's how that used to work. And it was just, and me I would tell people when they'd be like, yeah, I want the 7-year battery. I'm like, okay, you do want the 7-year battery because it physically, mechanically is a better battery. But do not count on that warranty. You will likely get 4 to 5 years out of this battery if everything goes well. If you have any problems at all, 2 to 3 years. It's
So battery. I have a battery in my Tacoma. I want to say it's from it's old as hell. It still tests good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand. I don't understand. Why does some of them go bad?
Well, Craig drives like a grandparent, so there's that.
Well, listen, whether I drive, how I drive, it still starts the same, right? Uses the air, but I think I want to say it's 10 years old.
Yeah, that's odd. That is odd. They don't, but batteries now, right now, 2026, typically we're replacing factory batteries in 2019s, 2020s. We've done some 22s. We've actually done a few 23s, not many, but the sweet spot, if you will, if you want to sell batteries right now, you want to carry them for 2018 or 2019 to 2021. That's the sweet spot.
Because 7 to 8 years
Yep.
approximately.
Yep. 7 to 8 years is now the second go around after you've put because remember, the first battery comes in a brand new car. It's not a very taxing issue for a battery. Now you drive that thing for say 6, 7, 8 years, and you put another battery in it at 100,000 miles. Maybe you're putting a brand new battery into a used car. You're not going to get 7 years out of it. Whatever you got the first time, just like brakes. People are like, well, I want brakes that are going to last like the original ones.
How does
Doesn't
that
exist.
dynamic change?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm wondering the same thing. Like, what do you mean? How does a car use more electricity the older
Everything.
it gets?
Okay, so have you ever heard of a house fire starting from a bad outlet?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you do to an outlet that makes it go bad? I mean, you literally plug things in, pull things out. As long as that is tight, it should. I mean, if you get an electrical fire from an outlet, shouldn't that have started the day you put power to it? But it doesn't, and it just sits there. Or you see a breaker that doesn't pop; it's just sitting there, and they'll start a fire. Things break down. Things now,
Just the vibration and
but
the
yep,
wear and
and
tear.
yep, and now you think about this. Everything in that car, it goes down the road at 70 miles an hour. It hits bumps, it hits curbs, it shakes and shimmies on potholes. It's out there when it's 12 below, it's out there when it's 106 above. The humidity, the heat, the vacations, you know, the amount of abuse. It's amazing that cars even go down the road, to be honest. I mean, really,
Yeah.
when you think about and then think of the miles of wiring. And when this wire sits here like this does, now it's sitting on it. This wire will never go bad sitting there. But if I do this for 100,000 miles, it's going to wear a hole in it, and we see that all the time. And when you start figuring out a car, you realize, well, just the other day we had it was a Chevy Cruze, and there's a wiring harness that goes under the battery, and if the battery ever leaks, it melts it literally burns up the top of that wiring harness. Well, batteries leak. I mean, it happens all the time. And this car is pre-AGM, so the advanced glass mat, the dry cell batteries aren't in it. So it's a wet acid filled battery, and all it takes is a little bit of acid drip, and then you have issues with and it's funny, you try to gas it, and it'll just stall and die. Well, it'll sit in idle all day, and if you drive, but as soon as you rev and torque the motor a little bit, it pulls on it, shorts out. And so now, that I don't know who found it first, but it had to be hours to find that, trace that down. Now we know that. First thing when you get that, you rev it up and it cuts out or dies. It's like first thing we do, grab an inspection mirror and flashlight. It's like, yep, she's all crusty down there. Pull the battery out, pull the battery tray out, start cutting wires, start splicing, start heat shrinking. And
Now, is that a tribal knowledge thing, or is it like I'm going to AI to figure this out? The first two.
Well, okay, that is a work. I mean, the first guy that brings that to you gets screwed. And I'm just being honest. I'm being transparent. I do this. I tell all my customers. I never hide from that. It's like I tell them, okay, this is a wiring issue. We are $118 an hour, and it's as long as it takes. It's time and material. That's what it is. And the hard part, when you have a taillight that goes out, and you realize it's a wiring issue, it's not a bulb. Well, all the power comes from the front of the car, and all the wiring and the electronics, your turn signal switch, your brake pedal, all that's up front, but the light's in the back. So now, when that light doesn't work and we know we've got a wiring issue, where should I start? Should I start at the tail light and work my way forward? Should I start at the battery or the switch or the pedal and work my way back?
There's a lot of opportunity in there for failure.
Right. So I mean, literally, you're thinking, well, usually it's typically in the back because that's where weather can get to it, water, whatever. So let's start there. And if you're right, it's a 10-minute job and it's fixed, and the guy pays you $30 and goes home happy. If it's at the pedal, you just cost that guy 7 or 8 hours. Mm-hmm. And so you have to try and there's some things you can do to try and wean it down or eliminate one thing and start. But again, wiring can be expensive. But once you find it, now of course, if a month later or a day later, a guy brings in another Toyota Tacoma and it's doing the exact same thing, what are you going to do?
You're going to go to where you
went. You're going to go right to where you found the problem last time. Now, does that mean it's going to be there? Nope. It might be corroded. It might be corroded at the back. Then you start that. But you're going to go there. And once you see a couple of those, then it's like note to self.
It reminds me of a meme I saw specifically about mechanics, and a customer complaining. It's like you charge me $118 hours for labor for a 15-minute fix. Yeah. It's like, no, you're paying me that money because I already spent 30 hours on another part figuring it out, so I could fix it in 15 minutes.
Yep, you're paying for the knowledge.
Absolutely.
And you'll have mechanics out there, like when we go to trainings and you're talking to the guys, it's kind of the behind the scenes conversations. And you have the guys that'll be like, they'll tell you whatever they charge that first guy that took them half a day to figure out, every time that problem comes in, that's what they charge. And I'm like, oof, I can't wrap my head around that. I can't. I can't. Is it right to say that the first guy paid $300, $1,200, $1,500, whatever it took, and then the next guy gets by with a $75 bill. That's hard to swallow too, but it's honest. It's what happened.
Right.
It is
No
truly
different than like
what we did.
than product of any kind, right? Usually, for the most part, it gets cheaper over time. The first
Yeah.
one, right? The first computer was $87,000, right? Whatever. Now you buy one for
right. It didn't do what our
Five
iPhone
in
would
your
do.
pocket.
Yeah, half is in your pocket, right?
Well, I think in the grand or the long run, though, I mean, the more knowledge like that any business owner has,
Right.
the lower the cost and the better quality service you're going to be able to provide in the long run. Right?
Yep.
So it's insurance, right? I mean, you've been in the game for a long time, so you know about. Well, listen, I can't. I'm sure you get this. Well, I got a quote. It ain't cheaper.
Happened today.
Yeah, right. So it's like, well, yeah, you did, and good luck if you have a claim.
Well, I mean, it's a, you can get it done right, or you can get it done cheap. You probably can't have both.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Well, and back to our earlier thing, the bar over or the gun shop over a bar. When I came to you with that, you weren't in a position to do anything with it, and you were real upfront with me. You didn't lead me on. You didn't jerk me around. You just told me. I mean, well, you laughed at me, but you told me. No, I'm just kidding.
Good luck, buddy.
That was what I got. That's what I got. But now, if I come to you with that same thing now, you're not just gonna, even though you're broke, you're not just gonna shotgun that to every vendor you have.
No, they'll laugh at me.
Yeah, right. But you know who you can go to with that, or who you should go to with that. Same thing. It's all about knowledge in your industry, and that's why I said earlier when you said you don't know farms that well. That's my point. Is but in your business you need to be the expert, right. and you need to be the expert, not just say. Well, and so so I can really appreciate the fact that you stay away from farms because you don't know them. That makes sense to me.
It's not my wheelhouse.
Right.
But an interesting perspective from an insurance agent standpoint too is that the markets that you want to be in, that you want to be good at, from an insurance agent standpoint, you're going to have relationships in that industry. Mm-hmm. And typically, when you're talking about commercial insurance or business insurance, you're dealing with maybe a dozen companies, primarily. There's others, and each one of those companies has maybe one or two underwriters.
Oh,
that's it.
Oh,
You're not talking to a call center.
Sure.
You're not talking to India 1-800 whatever.
Hello, my name is Bob.
Yeah, my guy with Liberty Mutual. I said the company is Mark.
Yeah,
I know Mark, and Mark knows me.
Liberty.
Exactly. And if I'm looking to place something with that company, I'm not going to just shotgun something over. I'm going to give them a call, or I'm going to send them an email and say, here's what I got. Here's where I need to be in terms of where I think we need to be competitive on premium. What do you want it? Are you interested in this business? Can you be competitive? Yeah. So, in the more knowledge that agent has, and the more relationships that agent has with those underwriters, especially in the commercial and business side, the better product, the better service you're going to get at the end of the day.
Better solution.
Yeah. And that agent's going to be able to underwrite that risk properly, so there's no surprises down the road.
Well, and this is what Small Business Talk with Jerry is all about. It's not about insurance or signs or auto repair. It's about just talking about small business, and all three of us can throw a scenario out there, and we all can relate it to our business and how we would handle that situation, and it's all going to be very similar.
Right.
I mean, we're not setting the world on fire, right? You're just trying to be good to people and then get paid what you're worth.
Well, I am. I'm just trying to collect insurance money.
And eat barbecue.
Yeah.
Barbecue.
I'm trying to create a disaster. It's like collect insurance money and add some barbecue.
Chemtrails. Craig just wants disaster.
Right.
It's but really that's what this is about. And then like you're talking about with Mike at Biberty. I mean, it's Mark. Oh, Mark. I thought it said Mike.
No,
okay. So I should have been listening. Well, it's hard to listen and talk at the same time. Right. I struggle with that. So. But when you're talking about that, it's kind of we're all in the same networking group with Small Business Referral Group. You came into that just recently, and you don't walk in expecting to just be overwhelmed with business. You expect to walk in there and be the new guy for a little bit, but then make your introductions. How do you not be the new guy? Do you sell everybody something? No, you meet them, you talk to them, you build a relationship. And once people know you and trust you as a human being, well, then business just comes. I mean, why wouldn't I give you my deck sheets? Why wouldn't I ask you what you can do for me?
I'm not going to be the guy that's going to grind on online web leads, or I'm not going to be that kind of guy that's going to be pestering people for their wages and asking for can I do this or that. I'm going to be the guy that's going to be there every day, trying to learn something from our business owners in our group, and anybody around me. Try to be the best resource I can, be good to the community, be good to people, treat them right, provide good service. And I believe that always comes around in spades.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I mean, referral business is my bread and butter.
Yeah.
That's how I get paid.
And how do you refer? I mean, if I didn't know you, I couldn't refer anybody to you. I can't come in and have a good experience and then just be like, this is my guy. You got to get to know somebody. At least I do. Maybe I'm weird, but I think that's the way it works.
I think
you got to build a relationship.
Yeah, we talked about this today in our meeting. David Nelson had asked about asking for donations, right? Because he's a nonprofit.
Sure.
Out there at Camp Victory, and his question is when there's a time and a place to ask for a donation. Mm-hmm. There's a time and a place to ask for the deck page. There's a time and a place for me to ask, to replace your sign. But he asked the group today, what helps people want to donate? What helps people want to help Operation Barbecue?
Yeah.
And
the sauce.
Yeah, the sauce. But the overwhelming response was being visible in the community.
I was just going to ask, what was the consensus?
It was, being, showing up for whatever the case may be, actually helping the community. So Operation Barbecue obviously is a great thing.
Right.
Camp Victory in that regard is a great resource for parents with kids, grandparents with grandbabies. And so it was just, if you are present in your community, like you said, it'll come around.
Yeah.
Are you going to get it right away? No. You've got to make an effort to be involved in whatever it is that you choose to be. I'll use Brendan Erickson as an example. That guy's in everything, right? He's a chamber ambassador. He's in SBR and other networking groups. Guy's everywhere. But because, God rest his soul, Rob Amundsen was the same way.
Yeah.
Guy was just everywhere.
Yep.
And everybody knew him. So
he wasn't there for the show.
No, he was just there because he was a good dude.
Yep.
And so I think that's the biggest thing is like if you're there with Operation Barbecue, you're kind of doing a really amazing thing for people in distress or for communities with fire departments and local police and fire and all that. That I think is the answer to the longevity of referrals.
Yeah.
Because people just
relationships. Yeah. Bottom line.
I had a mentor early in my career, Roy Bauer. I don't know if you know. Bauer built tires.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's from Wisconsin. He's had several businesses. One of the things that he told me is that, if you want to be an entrepreneur and be a business owner, it's not just about hitting the clock every day, making the calls, sending emails, writing policies, whatever it is you do.
Yep.
You got to be involved, and you got to, find a passion to be a good member of the community, be involved, be a good person.
I saw a quote the other day. Sorry.
Yeah.
It just said, "A business that only makes money is a poor business."
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, because it was for a ton of check. Because it's just we're all here to make money. Let's be honest.
Right. We've got bills to pay.
Yeah.
You want to live in a house.
It's not always I don't think for most people, not everybody, some people, but most people, it's not the number one driving force. Is it there for sure? Of course. Yeah. We all make money. That's why I married who I did.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. Yeah. So I've told you the story 100 times. It's like for me, I tell Heather at least once a month, maybe more. I was like, honey, I know you can do better. Just don't. So far it's working. So just that brutal honesty is just don't. And she doesn't. So no. Well, we're climbing on about an hour and 15 minutes. So it doesn't seem that long.
No.
Does it?
No, time flies when you're hanging out with buddies. Right?
Yeah, it's when you're having a good time. Yep.
Although we should tell people how to get a hold of you.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Again, my name Jeff Fasbender, TrueNorth Risk Solutions, my business. www.truenorthrisksolutions.com. Jeff@truenorthrisksolutions.com. It's my email address. I'm on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, TrueNorth Risk Solutions. So, and I'll plug Operation Barbecue really quick.
100%, please.
So if you're interested in getting involved or more information, you can reach me there. My TrueNorth email's fine. Otherwise, OBR. Also, all the socials Operation.
You just Google that, right?
Yeah, Google it, Facebook. Yeah, check out the website. There's all kinds of information on there. If you're interested in volunteering, you can register right on the website.
Or donating, for that matter.
Yeah, if you want to donate,
right.
there's QR code up there. Just click to donate, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. What about, not to interrupt, but we said that 100 times, but we keep doing it. It's just that's how this works. What about when folks are in a disaster, to reach out to let you know you're welcome?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, yeah, and specifically be looking for the emergency operation coordinators in Minnesota, particularly. So generally, that's county sheriff's departments, local law enforcement, firefighter or fire departments, or anybody that is involved in emergency operation coordination for those.
So would you? Am I overstepping, or would you invite those people in those positions to reach out to you?
Absolutely.
I mean, pre-disaster today. I mean, just say. Absolutely. Introduce themselves and kind of make that connection, that relationship before they need you.
The more connections there, the better. And if we can get a cohesive group of folks in our area that we have a real relationship, we can definitely do more great things for
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great guys, you heard it. I mean, just obr.org, and let's reach out to Jeff. And obviously, with his insurance company, also, I've known Jeff personally for quite a few years, and I couldn't say enough nice things. I would trust you. I mean, I told you we're going to talk about Broadway here a little bit. I just paid a bunch of premiums, so the sting is fresh. So see if you can help us out some. We'll see how it goes. But
put some ointment on that sting.
Right, a little bit.
A little salve,
a little Kansas City style. I don't care how you do it. That's right. Anything we can do. One thing I don't have. And I've done a few competitions myself, and I did mention I wasn't very good at it. But I need like a sauce mop. I've always just wanted a mop. I don't have one. I have like the silicone brushes. Looks like a little mop, but you put barbecue sauce on.
Oh, you actually use it to put on sauce?
Yeah, they're a pain to clean, but they are. And there is a mop sauce too. So yeah.
I was literally thinking like an actual mop that you.
Yeah, it does, but it's only about so big.
Yeah, but you clean the floor or the ground or what?
A barbecue sauce mop.
Legitimately, there are barbecue joints, especially down south, that legit use mops, floor mops.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the big.
They'll just make a 5-gallon bucket of their mop sauce and they'll just mop it.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Separate mop. Separate.
Yeah.
Oh, not the floor one.
They use a different one.
Okay, fair.
All right. So before we leave, people know how to get a hold of you. They know what you do. They know what you do on the side with Operation Barbecue. Give us a little entrepreneurial insight, if you would, on something. Just something that changed your outlook on business at some point in your career.
That's a good one.
Can I put him on the spot, folks? I
Yeah.
didn't give him any warning on this, so be gentle.
That's all right. I think coming out of my previous business with the captive agency, I think recognizing that you're not in a place you want to be, or you could potentially make a change and take some risk and do something different. I think it's worth taking that risk and going for it.
Awesome.
And I feel like, and I can credit my wife, Jill, too. We've done this several times in adult life. I left a very cushy job at a large medical institution that will remain unnamed with an excellent benefit package.
Is it good on a sandwich?
Yes. Well, it depends on who you ask. I think.
Okay. I would agree. I love mustard.
It has to be Duke's.
Oh, it has to be Duke. Oh, that's some good stuff there.
Anyway,
yes.
Yes. So
I bet that'd be good on some smoked turkey.
Oh, yeah. Can't go wrong.
In certain situations. But we took a risk several times, and we've kind of reinvented our business and reinvented ourselves. And I guess my advice would be if you have an idea and you have the ability to take that risk and jump into it and be an entrepreneur, be your own boss, do it. Life's too short.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I would add to that even be careful taking to Craig's point earlier, and see if you guys agree. Be risk averse if you're just after the money. If you, to your point earlier, kind of can bring this all full circle, if you can take a risk to get back in your passion, because I really, what you said earlier, when you said the wife kind of lost her passion on one thing, so she shifted gears, and now she's passionate again.
Right.
Boy, that's, I mean, you take the, how many companies do you see they take their best salesmen and make them one of their worst managers?
Yeah.
You know, and why is that? Because they loved sales and they hate managing people.
Right.
But you know, we're going to move you up within the company, and you see people do that, and we do it to ourselves all the time. You know, you lose the passion.
And on that point, I think it takes, some insight, some deep personal insight to realize you're in that situation. And
Well, especially if the money is still there.
exactly,
I mean, you know,
you're making a very good living doing what you do, and frankly, you're good at it.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy now. You know, I mean, easier.
But you don't see yourself doing this for the next 20 or 30 years because I don't have the passion for it.
Right.
And to have that self-reflection and that self-realization, and to be able to switch gears and move back into something you're passionate about is, I think, key.
Look at a great example of that. Look at Jeff Bezos.
Yep.
I mean, the guy had a cushy job making real money, and then he decides he wants to sell books online.
Everybody laughed at him.
Yeah. I mean, everybody laughed at him, and his boss said, "Are you kidding?" I mean, I love hearing that. I'm not a huge Jeff Bezos fan per se, but I love hearing that story of when, because his boss talked him out of it.
Right.
And he lasted what, I think he said a couple of weeks or 2 weeks or something. And then he just went, "No, I'm going back." But he said he kind of pushed the idea out of his head because his boss was like, "You got the world by the tail, man. Just keep running." And so and then now you look what he's done. I mean, he's one of the wealthiest men in the world,
Right.
but he had to reinvent himself to do it.
Big boat.
Yeah,
He's got a big boat.
a couple, I'm sure. And I think a lot of people are risk averse. They probably would avoid doing something like that.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I'm saying go for
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. I love that. I love that attitude too. Craig, how about you? Anything to add to
Nope.
that?
Nope. I mean, I like the risk. I mean, it's to your point. You got to take the risk.
Yeah.
We've talked about it 100 times before with SBR, and any entrepreneurs out there. It's scary taking the leap, but sometimes you just got to take the leap. Somebody just said somebody just said another thing the other day. Take the leap, and the net will appear, or something like that. I don't remember what the
Well, I had a
exact
conversation.
saying was,
I had a conversation today with Jeff Kiger from the Post Bulletin, and I'd asked him. He was asking me something about Broadway Car Care. He called, and we had that conversation. Then when it was done, I said, "Can I bug you for just one more minute?" I said, I've reached out a time or two about Small Business Referral Group, and doesn't see much interest there. He's like, "Oh, I don't know if there's no interest," but he said, "How long have you guys been around? Tell me a little bit about it." So I said, "Almost 2 years old. We're in four chapters in Rochester, Owatonna. We've got Brainerd." I said, "Lacrosse starts this coming Tuesday." "Oh, so you guys are expanding?" I'm like, "Yep." And he said the reason he wasn't real excited about, coming in and talking to us was because he's like, over the last, decade or 15 years, there's actually been quite a few of these networking businesses that have started and they don't make it. And he said, it's why put your time and effort into something that's going to be gone tomorrow? So he said, but you guys are on the right track. You're obviously growing. So he's coming to our meeting on Tuesday. So we'll get to see Jeff and chat with him a little bit.
Awesome.
Unless something comes up, but he said, he goes, I should be able to make it. He, kind of half committed to it, but yeah, so I'm excited to be nice to get, the Post Bulletin on board a little bit, I mean, and he didn't know that Melissa was in a chapter, in the Thursday chapter from the Post Bulletin. And she's on leave right now, but I said, you guys actually have a membership, on the other side, not his side, but the sales side. So it was a great conversation with him. But with the Broadway Car Care thing and the buildings coming down around us, the property being sold, he wanted to make sure that he didn't paint the wrong picture on if Broadway Car Care was going away or if it was going to stay or what it was doing. He wanted to make, I said, I really appreciate that because we used to get that question once or twice a month. Then it turned into once or twice a week. Then it turned into once a day. Now it's about every hour, 45 minutes or an hour this last 2 weeks is the phone rings. Nobody not even to make an appointment, just to go, are you guys closing? because the property's been sold and now the houses are starting to come down behind us. And so things are changing. The landscape around us is changing, but no, we're not going anywhere. And he goes, well, I said, I will try to keep the phone ringing for you guys.
Mhm.
And so it was really cool to have that conversation where, it wasn't somebody looking to be negative or dig up dirt. He was just there to make sure that the story was right. What he told was factual. And so that was really cool. I wanted the opportunity took the opportunity to say, come take a look at SBR also. I think we've got something really cool here.
Nice to hear a journalist is giving the facts.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the last few years have been tough, in my opinion, on the news side of things, the media. And so to have a conversation with him was
Downtown
great.
Rochester area in general has been tough.
It's been real tough. So yeah, it was a really good conversation. I don't know him personally. I've met him once or twice, I think, at chamber event kind of stuff. But no, today was the first time I actually had a good conversation with him, and I was very impressed. Very nice guy, and he really seemed concerned. Well, I believed him, I guess is what I should say. He seemed concerned that he gets the story right, and that holds a lot of water for me. A lot of weight. I'm real happy to hear that. So yeah, I'm excited to meet him on Tuesday. But yeah, well, I guess we're gonna call her quits then. Would you come back and do it again?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. It was a good time, great conversation. So awesome. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get this cut up. And folks, look around. You're going to see some reels and some little shorts. We're going to get that for Jeff. And yeah, we'll keep things moving. So Jeff, thanks for coming out. Craig, same to you. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a great night, everybody.